When you teach people how to create heart coherence and self-regulate, then it makes sense then with a coherent brain, they can hold the image of their future. They can actually then rehearse who they're going to be. They can bring up the emotions of their future. Now here's the cool part. If they can feel their gratitude before their healing begins. If they feel their abundance or their worthiness before they have their wealth, it will start generating abundance. If they start being in love with themselves and being in love with life, they'll create an equal. That's the law. If they're in awe of life or in awe of the moment, they're going to have a mystical experience. If they're empowered, they're going to start stepping towards their success. So then when we wait for the outer world to change our internal state, that's a conditioning process, because some people will live in lack and separation their entire life because they're not creating anything. When this happens, then I'll feel happy. That's the illusion of three-dimensional reality. That's cause and effect. But feeling the emotion ahead of the experience is causing an effect.
Hey, it's Evan Carmichael, and I make these videos because in my first business, I struggled to believe in myself. I quit on my business partner. And the thing that saved me was watching the successful stories of entrepreneurs. They gave me the inspiration to keep going, as well as the strategies of what to do. And quite honestly, I still need their stories and motivation today as well. So today, let's live your best belief life and learn how to visualize better. Enjoy.
So the heart, when it's coherent, tends to produce an external magnetic field that's up to 3 meters wide. Now you got a Wi-Fi signal. Mm-hmm. Now when you have a coherent brain, the brain could actually lay the information on that signal. And the thought of your wealth or your health can be carried on the frequency of that heart emotion. Emotions are the end product of an experience, right? Epigenetics says it's the environment that signals the gene. If the environment signals the gene and the end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion, that person's signaling genes ahead of the environment. And now they're biologically believing, behaving, and actually becoming that person. So if the person sustains that state, and we look at novice meditators that come for a week, and 90% of them, and the metabolites, not just a few, the majority of the metabolites and novice meditators suggest that their body's in a different life.
We keep using this term heart coherence. I know there's a part of my audience going, okay, what is that? My understanding of heart coherence essentially physically means that your breathing and heart are actually in unison at one point and that you sustain that over a duration of time. Elaborate on that and go for it.
Coherence is rhythm. It's a cadence. And when you're in fear or you're in survival and your heart rate increases and your respiratory rate increases, your brain waves go up into this aroused state, right? And people spend 70% of their life anticipating the worst case scenario that's going to happen in their life and prepare for the worst. Chronic stress does what? It causes us to hold our breath. All right. So we found, in our research and working with the HeartMath Institute and also some of the stuff we've been doing, that if you slow your breathing down, you slow your brainwaves down. And if you teach your body to move out of survival, there's only one other thing it wants to do. It wants to create, right? So now just imagine a big drum. And now you're so contracted that you can't hit that drum. And as you learn and teach a person how to convert from that fight or flight nervous system to the nervous system of relaxation, the heart actually starts to bloom. And when you place your attention on your heart, we have the data. I can say this emphatically. That when that heart starts to beat in rhythm, it starts to inform the brain that it's time to create. Like taking a big sheet and going like this, a wave of energy goes right to the brain. The brain goes right into alpha and says, it's safe now to create. Examine other possibilities. You're out of survival, right? So then, as you hit that drum repeatedly, there's a wave of sound that's produced, and the more coherent it is, the more it can carry information, right? Or if you drop a pebble in the water, and you drop another pebble in the water, and you drop another pebble in the water, when your heart is coherent, there's a magnetic field.
Rule number 2 is be conscious of your unconscious self.
Do you have your own spiritual practice that you personally do, and how has that changed over the years, and how has that helped you, and that sort of thing? So I'm trying to let people get a feeling of different things people do and how it can help them.
Well, for me personally, when I wake up in the morning, I ask myself the same exact question every single day. And that question is, what is the greatest ideal of myself that I can be today? Now, there's enough science to support this concept that when we begin to become conscious of our unconscious thoughts, we begin to notice our unconscious habits and behaviors, and we begin to pay attention to our emotions. The fact that we are observing those aspects of the old self means that we're no longer the old self. We begin to become consciousness observing the old self. So my process is to become conscious of who I no longer want to be. And if 95% of who we are by the time we're 35 years old is a set of memorized behaviors, attitudes, beliefs, perceptions, and emotional reactions that function like a subconscious computer program, then it's entirely possible that we're unconscious most of our waking day, right? So then the hardest part about change is not making the same choices we did the day before. So the biological model of change requires unlearning and relearning. It requires breaking the habit of the old self and reinventing a new self. What we say in neuroscience, pruning synaptic connections and sprouting new connections. Unmemorizing emotions that are stored in the body, and then reconditioning the body to a new mind and to a new emotion. It's literally drawing your energy from the past and putting it into the future. Deprogramming and reprogramming, breaking the habit of the old self is really the model. So when I sit down in my discipline, in my morning meditation, the first thing that we have to do is we have to become conscious of our unconscious self. So it's entirely possible that we're judging other people and we don't know that we're doing it because it's an unconscious program. It's entirely possible that we're living by guilt every single day because it's become so common and so familiar to us. So as we begin to become conscious of those unconscious states, we're going into the operating system of the subconscious and making them conscious. So the more we are conscious of those unconscious states, the more control we have on those later on in our day. And so most people, they start out with really good intentions to think positively, but they may have been thinking, acting, or feeling negatively for the last 25 years. So I just take a little bit of time and I become aware of who I no longer want to be. Then I begin to think about who I want to be when I open my eyes, what thoughts I do want to fire and wire in my brain, what behaviors I do want to demonstrate. And if you begin to contemplate or even mentally plan or rehearse your behaviors, if you do it properly, mental rehearsal shows that you begin to install the neurological circuits in your brain. So now the brain looks like the experience has already happened, or better yet, the brain is primed now for you to get your behaviors to match your intentions in your waking day. If I can bring up the emotion of how this new ideal would feel, the end product of every experience is called an emotion. So if I can begin to feel what it would be like to be the greatest ideal of myself, then I'm giving my body a taste of the future emotionally. And the research shows that rehearsal both changes the brain as well as the body. So then if I can get my brain primed to be thinking differently, and I can get my body primed to be feeling differently, how you think and how you feel creates a state of being. And the quantum field responds to who we're being. So our job then is when we get up from our meditation, we should feel differently than when we sat down. But that's not enough. Then you have to maintain your modified state of mind and body your entire day. And if you do that properly and be greater than the conditions in your environment, to be greater than the emotional addictions and habits of the body, and be able to sustain that change for just a suspended period of time, get ready because something unusual is going to happen in your life. That's the law. And it always comes in a way that we least expect. Because if we can expect it, it's nothing new. It has to rock our world. It has to catch us off guard. And when we see the effects of our change in our internal state being produced in our external world, we'll pay attention to what we did and we'll do it again. So for me personally, I ask that question, what's the greatest ideal of myself? And I don't get up from my meditation until I feel like that person. And then when I get in that state of being, then I do my best to live from that state of being.
And how long does that take?
It's a great question.
It might take some of us all day. We might never get up.
Well, it's a really great question because that's really what people are afraid of. I mean, for me personally, I allow for 2 hours every morning. Now people say, oh my God, 2 hours. Do you take 2 hours? No. but I allow for 2 hours. Why? Because if I allow for 1 hour, my ego will say, well, there's not enough time, you won't get it done. But if I allow for 2 hours, I'm not thinking about time. So some days I'm able to find the sweet spot of the present moment, and in a matter of moments, I can become conscious of my unconscious self and then decide who I want to be and bring up the thoughts and emotions, and I can change my state of being. Other days I'm thinking about flights I have to catch, people I have to see, emails I have to check, staff members I have to meet with, and I'm not in the present moment. So it may take me some days 45 minutes to an hour just to keep bringing my body back to the present moment. But that's the work. And I always know that if I keep going and I keep working with bringing the body back to the present, either from the future or from the past, if I do that properly, I always say the same thing when I connect. I always say, that was so worth it. It was so worth making the effort to get beyond myself. So I allow for 2 hours, and it doesn't normally take me 2 hours, but if I allow for 2 hours, then I can relax and not have to think about time.
Rule number 3 is get intentional.
Sometimes I think people get confused with what intention really is.
Okay. So here's my definition of intention. Getting clear on what you want. That's it. So now, it sounds really easy, like to get clear on what you want. The problem is that when the analytical mind gets overdriven by the hormones of stress, we start thinking, I want this, but then I need it on this condition, so it can't affect this person, and I don't want to lose that. And if this occurs, then this is going to occur for this, and that's not intention. That's trying to control everything in your life.
Confusion sounds like.
Well, what you're trying to do is say, I want this specific thing, but I'm not willing to lose any of these things or affect any of these people. It's got to land right here. The universe doesn't work like that. Intention is, you may say, I want a healing. I want a new job. I want a new relationship. Now, the moment you ask the question, the what if question, what would it be like to be in love? What would it be like to have a new job? What would it be like to be in a new relationship, to do whatever, to be healed? The moment you ask that question, the part of your brain called the frontal lobe, which is the crowning achievement of the human being, 40% of your brain is the frontal lobe. It's the workshop. It's the creative center. Frontal lobe has connections to all other parts of your brain. The moment you ask an open-ended question, you speculate a possibility. The creative center turns on and it looks out over the landscape of the entire brain and begins to call up different networks of neurons that are stored in your brain based on something you've learned intellectually, knowledge, or something you've experienced in your life. Like, well, I know what it is to be in love, or I know what it is to have a good job, or I read a book about it. And it begins to call up these different networks of neurons, and then it seamlessly pieces them together to create a new idea, a new vision. And when you put all those networks together and they fire in tandem, you'll get a clear picture in your mind. And that clear picture is called intention. Now, the more you have conditions, or the more you have specifics about that job, like, for example, I want to make this amount of money more a year, I want to have health benefits, I want to have 3 weeks vacation, I want to travel, I want to work with great and unlimited creative people. That all is the elements that help to add to that vision. Now, the picture you get in your mind could be the word job, or it could be just an image that's personal to you. But the image then represents all of those conditions. So you can have several conditions that make up your intention. But the intention typically is a symbol. Like, you may see a retreat center that you may want to start and you have a picture of it. But once you see that picture, the next thing that happens, you start to live that dream. The moment you start to take that dream and it turns into a living motion picture, now you're in that imaginary place. And what happens is, the moment it starts taking on form and it starts taking on time, you start to experience it and all the things you're going to do, you're actually living in that future, and your brain does not know the difference between the actual event that takes place in your life and what you're imagining in your mind. We call it mental rehearsal in my work, but you're literally rewiring yourself to the future. Now your brain is no longer a record of the past. It's now, in fact, a map to the future. Now, Most people stop at this level, but there's another level. Because once you have that intention, and I watched you do this, what makes the intention have life is when you combine it with that emotion. Why? Because your body is your unconscious mind. It doesn't know the difference between an experience in your life that creates an emotion and an emotion that you're fabricating by thought alone. So your body now, as the unconscious mind, is living in that future in the present moment, and you're beginning to epigenetically change your cells in preparation for that event. So then, here's the condition, the caveat. That means then you can't wait for your healing to feel wholeness. You have to feel wholeness for your healing to occur. That means you can't wait for your new relationship to feel love. You have to feel love so your relationship finds you. It means you can't wait to have your new job to feel empowered. You have to be empowered by the thought of your new job. So we're switching the model around because most people wait for something outside of them to change how they feel inside of them. And when they feel better inside of them, they get relief and they say, I like you, you helped me with that. That's cause and effect. That's the old model of reality. What we're talking about here in the quantum model is causing an effect, which means then you are going to have to change how you think and how you feel before the experience occurs in order for the event to find you.
So if someone is looking for love, they're not, instead of looking outside, they're going to think about who and what they want in a person that they can fall in love with.
Exactly,
And
that's intention.
Right, okay, so those are the waves that they're putting out. That's the information that they're putting out.
Now that information has to have a carrier, which is they better feel love. I mean, if you're going to enter in a relationship with me and you want to be in love, but you're not bringing any love to the relationship, why would I want to love you?
Right.
You'd have to bring that. So like, if your personality creates your personal reality, and your personality is made of how you think, how you act, and how you feel, the present personality who's listening to this show has created the present personal reality called their life. So if they wanted to create a new personal reality, a new life, they would have to start thinking about what they were thinking about and change it. Starting to become conscious of their unconscious habits and behaviors and modify them. Now here's the key. They have to look at the emotions that they've memorized that keep them anchored to the past and decide if those emotions belong in their future. So most people try to create a new personal reality as the same personality, and it doesn't work. In other words, a wealthy person doesn't feel lack. You can't bring lack into your future. You know, a sick person doesn't feel desperation. They feel wholeness. And so then, by re-identifying with the future, and then instead of your past, present reality, is very, very easy conversation to have. But actually doing it requires a tremendous amount of awareness. And that awareness means then that you have to stay conscious and pay attention to who you're being all the time. And you can't let any thought slip by your awareness that's going to cause you to return back to the old self. You can't begin to react emotionally to people and things in your life that cause you to feel like the old self. You can't talk and complain and blame and make excuses or go back to old habits and expect your future to show up. You have to maintain that state for a period of time so that your body catches up, because the body and brain live in the past. So it takes a certain amount of repetition and a certain amount of consciousness, a certain amount of will to finally arrive there. And I'm happy to say that it's possible.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight all of the lessons learned in this video, as well as pull out our 3 favorite learnings and quotes that will inspire you to actually do something. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 4 is be the shepherd of your thoughts.
95 to 99% are created from lifestyle. You can take 2 identical twins, same exact gene expression, same exact genome. One dies at 55, the other one dies at 81. Why? They're in a different environment, or their perception of the environment.
Right.
So now it's not that the gene is a parts list of possibilities.
Right.
So now, here's the point. If a person is perceiving the environment or in an environment where they're constantly living in fear or anxiety or anger or aggression or frustration, then it makes sense then that those emotions would influence certain thoughts. And certain thoughts would make certain feelings or certain emotions. Well, if you're living by the same emotions every single day, it's the environment that signals the gene. The end product of an experience in the environment is an emotion. So your body is objective. If you're living in fear, whether there's any fearful conditions in your environment, your body's believing it's in an environment where it needs to feel fear. So then the person then keeps signaling the same gene because they're feeling the same emotion. They're responding to the same environmental condition. They're signaling the same gene. You keep making the same protein. You keep signaling the same gene over time. It's like taking a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. All of a sudden, the body starts making a cheaper protein. The gene down-regulates, and now the body's moving out of balance. So then, here's the question. If you're thinking the same thoughts, making the same choices, demonstrating the same behaviors, creating the same experiences that produce the same emotions, and then those same emotions influence your very same thoughts, then your biology, your neurocircuitry, your neurochemistry, your hormones, and your gene expression is going to be equal to how you think, how you act, and how you feel. And how you think, how you act, and how you feel is called your personality. And your personality creates your personal reality. I love
that.
So if you're going to change your life, change your personal reality, you got to change your personality. You got to start changing your thoughts. You got to start thinking about what you've been thinking about and say, do I really want to think this? Like, you become the shepherd of your thoughts, the gardener of your own mind. You start to become aware of your unconscious habits and behaviors and say, my goodness, how am I speaking? How am I acting? You start looking at emotions that you live by every day and say, my goodness, I didn't even know it was guilt. It just feels like me. Or lack. And now the person's becoming conscious of their unconscious part of themselves. And the more conscious we become of the unconscious self, the less unconscious we go during the day. So it begs the question, new thoughts that lead to new choices that lead to new behaviors create new experiences produce new emotions are the information coming from the environment, they signal new genes and there's evolution. So now we upregulate the gene, you start making a healthy protein. The immune system starts upregulating and all of a sudden it makes new antibodies. Why? Because the body's back in growth and repair and out of survival.
Rule number 5 is trust the unseen.
Trusting in the unseen, that's a big one. That's a very big one and a very important one. Already feeling it and finding ourselves in a place where we already are embodying all those qualities, embodying, feeling that reality, and then the brain start changing, shifting, and being able to, how does this work? What's the dynamic? Tell us again.
Well, let's make it really simple, okay? Thoughts are the language of the brain. Feelings are the language of the body. So the currency of thought is what creates a certain level of mind. The currency of feeling then has everything to do with experience, okay? So knowledge is for the mind, experience is for the body. So your brain has networks of neurons that are arranged in certain patterns based on things you learn intellectually and things you've experienced in your life. So your forebrain is the builder, it's the designer, it's the CEO. And when you begin to speculate possibilities, when you start to think about a better way to do something or something you want to experience or something you want to do or some future event, it's an amazing phenomenon because researchers are beginning to show that not only do we remember a past, but the brain actually can remember a future. And so how does it do that? Well, because the forebrain has connections to all other parts of the brain, it can take a little bit of that knowledge from a specific neural network and a little bit of experience and another neural network of knowledge and another neural network of experience, and it can seamlessly piece it together to create a new level of mind. And then your brain gets a picture or an image, and then you transfix your mind on that image and those neurons string into place. that begin to fire and wire together. And every time you remind yourself of what you want to experience, you're reinforcing the circuitry in your brain to begin to install the hardware for you to actually experience that future event. In other words, the brain already looks like it's already had the event. Now that's super cool because it really says then that we're remembering a future potential. Now, feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, and we can remember experiences better because we can remember how they feel. So when you're in the midst of an experience and you're seeing and smelling and tasting and feeling and hearing and you're immersed in the environmental cues, there is a rush of information that causes the brain to pattern into specific neural networks, and then there's a very strong emotional quotient that the brain releases to the body. So then, if feelings and emotions are the end product of past experiences, then, is it possible then to tune into that future potential and put so much of our attention on it till it's real? And the end product of that experience in our own mind is an emotion, and we begin to feel how that event would actually take place or feel ahead of the actual experience. Now, we're no longer relying on the external world to change our internal chemistry, and then when we feel different, we look to see who or what caused it. What we're saying is now is that we're giving thanks ahead of the actual experience, or we're falling in love to the point that the body is, as the unconscious mind, is getting the signal before the actual environmental experience. The body does not know the difference between the event in reality that produces the emotion and the emotion you create by yourself. Now, here's the key. Most people use their senses to define reality. We all do. But the quantum model says we're going to use our mind to define reality, and we're going to convince our body emotionally that that future event has already happened. Now, when your mind and body are working together, when your thoughts and feelings are aligned, you're in a state of being. And that state of being is what that flow is all about. Now, some people would say, oh, that's nonsense, or that's so unrealistic. Well, it is nonsense. It's beyond the senses. And it is unrealistic because it isn't a reality yet. But you've already experienced it enough times that you can surrender now and let go, because you already can trust that somehow it's going to happen. You don't know how or when, and that should never be your job, because the moment you try to figure out how or when, you go back to that old identity trying to control the outcome. But if you understand that the quantum model says that there's an intelligence that will organize the event in a way that's right for you, and you've already experienced it enough times till you feel it on a cellular level, then you are in the state of experiencing it in terms of being it. And then when you're in that state of being, that is a personality. And your state of being is your personality, and your personality creates a new personal reality. So here's the beauty behind it. You can let go now and surrender to some greater intelligence and be tickled by the outcome, because you can't be tickled unless you don't know when it's going to happen or where it's going to happen. But the physiology of tickling says that you can surrender and not know when or how, and you'll be tickled. So the universe wants to tickle us in a certain way.
And rule number 6, the last one before some very special bonus clips, is feel the experience.
Imagine how many things you could get done if you had an infinite amount of time. An infinite number of possibilities. That's the quantum. Now, in the quantum, there's nothing structural, there's nothing material, there's nothing physical, there's no form, right? So what is it made of? It's made of energy, frequency, vibration, thought, consciousness, information, and every thought in that realm has a frequency. So all possibilities already exist. You don't have to create the possibility. In fact, all you have to do is become aware that it exists. The moment you do that, you're changing the thought and you're producing a different frequency. Now, if the person is astute enough to feel the frequency of the thought in the quantum and not wait for the experience to happen, but the thought of abundance would produce the feeling of abundance. For most people in three-dimensional reality, the thought of abundance produces the lack of not having it. That's why they're trying to create it, right? But in the quantum, you got to feel it in order to experience it, okay? So as you get closer and closer to that point, that source, that singularity, pure love, the zero-point field, whatever you want to call it, universal mind, that the creator, pure consciousness, as you get closer and closer to it, the closer you get to it, the more bliss, the more love, the more ecstasy you feel,
then you're no longer creating from lack or separation. The closer you get to it in the process of creation, the shorter the distance between the thought of what you want and the experience of having it, between the cause and the effect, from one point of consciousness and the other point of consciousness. So then people can create from the field instead of from matter if they have a coherent brain and a coherent heart, and they actually can send the coherent signal out and feel the emotion ahead of the experience. Then those synchronicities and opportunities that they're creating from fifth dimensional reality requires doing less. Somehow it's drawn to us, or it comes to us. It comes in ways that we least expect, that surprises us. Like, whoa, where did that come from? And now what does that do? It proves to you that you're the creator of your life, that instead of the victim of your life. And what's a victim? You say to someone, why are you feeling this way? What's wrong with you today? And they say, I am this way because of that person, because of that circumstance. What they're really saying is that person or circumstance is actually controlling my feelings and controlling my thoughts. Well, anything that's controlling my feelings and my thoughts, I'm victim to, right? So it makes sense then that when things are good, you feel good. And when things are bad, you feel bad, right? So when you start changing the way you think and feel, and it starts producing outcomes in your life, you're going to believe you're the creator of your life and less of the victim of your life. And the hardest part about all of this is just making the time to do it.
Well, you just landed on, I have two things I want to ask in mind, but the first was, why is it so damn hard? Like, why is it so hard to get to that place where you can, whether it be believe that leads to knowing, like why, what are those big hurdles for people to get over? And, one is making the time to do it, but then there's like being in it and actually in it being hard. Like I struggle with that sometimes, where you really to embody the feeling and to really like get yourself there. It feels like there's so many blockages. It's a difficult thing to achieve.
Yeah. Well, I think it's so much easier to forget this information than to remember it. I think we're wired, so wired for such limitation, and as I said, my belief about human potential has changed so dramatically. So the first thing I think is so valuable is this information, and the right information.
Sure.
We do our best to combine quantum physics with neuroscience, with neuroendocrinology, with psychoneuroimmunology, mind-body connection, epigenetics, protein metabolism, cellular biology, electromagnetism. Why? Because if knowledge is power, knowledge about yourself is self-empowerment. So every time you learn something new, you're forging connections in your brain. But the research shows if you don't repeat it, you don't review it, you don't think about it, they prune apart within hours or even days. So if learning is making those connections, then remembering is maintaining and sustaining them. Okay, so if you can build a model of understanding with people, and nothing is left to conjecture, nothing is left to superstition, nothing's left to dogma. And they can learn that information, and instead of getting on their cell phone and scrolling through their social media or looking at whatever, watching TV or getting distracted, if they learn that information and they have the opportunity to teach it back to somebody, and they begin to share that information right in the event, right?
It's like so the retreats. In the retreats, when you give information to people, you're like, okay, now talk about it to each other, and we stop and we talked about it, and it become, if you don't understand the information well enough, you can't explain it.
Yeah, it's not wired in your brain, but if you can explain it, you're installing the neurological hardware in your brain for what? In preparation for the experience. So we've discovered the more you understand what you're doing, and why you're doing it, the better results, the how gets easier, and you assign meaning to the task. And when you assign meaning to a task, the prefrontal cortex turns on and says to the brain, shut up, quiet down here. This is a moment where I want to really execute really well. And it silences all the other circuits in the brain so you can focus on a single-minded thought.
Everything is possible, when you believe. That's the kind of kicker. You have to believe. But it's not that hard. It's really pretty easy. Our belief creates our entire life experience. And so you can't, if I put it this way, you can't experience anything in life that is outside of your own beliefs. So, and that's the case for every single one of us. We really can't experience anything that's outside of our beliefs. If we can't experience anything that's outside of our beliefs, what that means is, look at all those hearts, that's so beautiful. What that means is there's not really one world. We kind of think there's one world, but there isn't really, because we're all experiencing a world based on our beliefs, and not one of us has the same beliefs, not one of us. So that means there's a different world for every one of us. So all of your beliefs are held in your subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind is just a part of your mind. There's the conscious mind, and then there's the subconscious mind, which is actually higher than the conscious mind. And so we use our conscious mind with all of the thoughts and everything that we have. Our conscious mind is very present, right? And so to create anything, you are using your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind is really what creates. If I want to make it really, really simple, then I would say your subconscious mind is what creates. It makes things appear and manifests things. And that's where all of your beliefs are stored. Kind of neat, huh? Because you have to believe to manifest something, and your subconscious mind creates everything. So you can see it's all kind of perfectly designed. So now to manifest, you have to believe. And you have to believe that you already have whatever it is that you want. And the reason that you have to believe you have it already is because the subconscious mind is only operating in the present. It can't reason. It's just like a program. So if you say, for example, a new car is coming, my new car is coming, I'm going to get a new car, it's coming. Well, then it's always going to be coming, right? That's the thing. You have to imagine you have it now. You have to go off and you have to test drive the car. You've got to feel the car, smell the car, and just then visualize being in that car. And then when you do that, that's how, if you do that enough, that's how you'll come to believe that you actually have the car. And the moment that you believe, there's manifestations instantaneous. So the other ways to believe is to affirm over and over and over. So to be really repetitive, for example, to visualize. And visualizing is incredibly powerful, because when we close our eyes and we put ourselves in the picture, and you must make sure you're in the picture, and you put yourself in the picture with whatever it is that you want, and you close your eyes and you just kind of create this mini movie. Honestly, the subconscious mind does not know that you're imagining it, has no idea. It just sees that movie and recreates it. It's like a giant photocopying machine. It will just, whatever you hold in your mind, it will photocopy it, boom, into the world. So if you are thinking about something in the future, it's always going to be in the future. So you have to imagine that you have it now. You have to act as if. And for example, if you wanted to attract a perfect partner, are you acting as if your perfect partner's here already? And so there are just small things that you can do that are super, super powerful. For example, are you sleeping in the middle of your bed, or are you sleeping on one side of the bed because your partner's on the other side of the bed? Do you have room in your wardrobe for your perfect partner's clothes? Is there room in your bathroom for their toothbrush and for their things? And so you see, they are just little things. You can set the table for two. You don't have to put food on the plate, but just setting the table for two is really, really powerful. It's saying my perfect partner's here already, and the subconscious mind will believe it, and your perfect partner will be attracted to you through the most incredible circumstances. So if something hasn't manifested yet and you really, really want it, and I doubt there's anybody out there who wants something and it hasn't manifested, right? I mean, I'll tell you the reason why it hasn't manifested is because you don't believe you have it.
The voice within us that believes that we are not allowed to be happy. Our card today is speaking to that. I believe I'm worthy of feeling good. I believe I am worthy of feeling good. This is often something that is a belief system that sounds really nice, but it's actually far from our reality, because many of us have been brought up with the belief system that we have to suffer to succeed, that we have to feel pain to have purpose, that we have to have struggles in order to feel a sense of serenity in our life. That is all quite backwards. It's when we feel good that we actually attract more of what we want into our life. But we have to undo the belief system that says, who am I to feel good? Who am I to feel great? Who am I to be happy? That belief system is an ingrained belief system that can be cultural, that can be something that we learned from our upbringing. It can be something that we have picked up from this difficult experience that we're going through right now with COVID. When we witness people suffering, we think, well, how dare I be happy? I would say to you, how dare you not be happy? It's your happiness. It's the collective happiness. It's the group collective happiness that raises the energetic frequency of the world. If we, those of us who have moments of happiness and grace and joy and success, and we don't celebrate them, we are doing the world a disservice. We are shutting down the light. We are bringing down the vibration. So we have to, when we feel good, we have to reach for more. When we feel good, we have to recognize that that good feeling emotion has momentum. It has power. It elevates our children. It elevates our family members. It elevates our friends. It elevates strangers on the street. It is your divine duty here on earth to bring forth that greatness, that goodness, that light. So when you hear that voice that says to you, you are not worthy of feeling good, I want you to hear my voice come through and say to you, who are you not to feel good? This is your divine purpose. It is your mission, and it is the way that you heal and serve. You got me? We are more comfortable being uncomfortable than we are being happy. So when things are good, and when we start to get a sense of feeling good, our ego, the voice of fear within us, starts to say, hell no, too good to be true. And it will find these weird little corners to pick up problems. We have a fault-finding mindset rather than a solution, happiness-oriented mindset. So when that happens, the next time you notice that you're feeling good and all is well, and all of a sudden you're like, but I wasn't nice enough to that person, or my coworkers aren't in a good place, or I didn't do that right, I want you to speak back to that voice. I want you to say, thank you for sharing, but I choose happiness instead. Thank you for sharing, but I don't believe that voice anymore. Thank you for sharing, but I'm choosing this moment. Give yourself permission in the moment to speak back to the fault-finding voice and start to claim the greatness of who you are. That is a pattern because you've lived your life in a habitual pattern of seeking problems and finding fault. Now we have to redirect and create a new habit and pattern of grounding you in the truth of who you are, which is happiness, joy, peace, and grace, sharing that happiness, joy, and peace with so much grace. That's what you're here for.
See this line? That's called the terror barrier. Yeah, jumping at you, isn't it? And on the other side of the terror barrier is something we call freedom. And you know, very few people get through that terror barrier. It's rather sad. Freedom is available to everyone. There isn't anyone that cannot live the way they want to live. See? Why don't they? Why don't they? They don't know. And they don't even know they don't know. Now I'm going to show you why people experience buyer's remorse when they buy something they really want, and then they back away, where they go to move and they don't. They go to change jobs and they don't. They go to move to another city and they don't. Why? Fear causes them to stay where they are. There's the individual. The X represents the unknown factor, the paradigm. Now, there's a power flowing into this individual's mind, and they can make anything out of it they want. Remember we said we had the ability to choose? What do they choose? They choose thoughts that are in harmony with the paradigm. Now, here's an important point. The paradigm controls the vibration of this thing we call our body. Our body is a molecular instrument. That's really what it is. It's a mass of molecules and a very high speed of vibration. The vibration that the body's in on a conscious level, we call feeling. When a person says they feel this way or they feel that way, what they're really doing is describing the vibration they're in. Now, they choose thoughts that harmonize with the vibration they're in so they feel comfortable. They may not like the results, but they're comfortable. Now, let's move ahead. Let's take a look here. Those people are getting X-type results and they don't like it. Do you know what the problem with them? They're in bondage. These people are locked up. Do you know, paradigm is like keeping a person in a prison, only there's no locks on the door. They can open the prison and walk out into freedom anytime they want, and they don't. They keep getting the same results over and over and over again. They're in bondage. Now, let's go ahead. Here's the same person. X-type conditioning, X-type vibration. The power's flowing into them. And for some strange reason from left field, boom, in comes a Y-type idea. What is a Y-type idea? The Y-type idea represents anything that you might want to do that you're not doing. It might be move to another city, change jobs, sell the house, buy the farm, whatever it may be. Ask the little girl for the date. Ask the guy to go to lunch. Go make the sale. Buy what you want. Go where you want to go. That's the Y idea. But as long as the Y idea is just in the conscious mind, it's just going to be an intellectual exercise. It's never going to happen. So how do we make it happen? Well, that's when everything goes haywire. Here we are here, same person, okay? The power flows in. And what do? They got the Y-type idea. Now, for some strange reason, they know that they've got to get emotionally involved if they're going to act on that idea. They don't understand what's going to happen, but clearly understand this. Your central nervous system is the most complex electrical system in the universe. The central nervous system is mind-boggling. It would make the electrical system in a supercomputer look like a toy. Now, the second you take the idea from your intellect and impress it upon the subjective mind, that's when all hell breaks loose. Because the body moves in to an XY vibration. It's not in the X vibration, not the one that we're comfortable with. May not like the results, but we're comfortable. No, on a conscious level, everything's going crazy. On a conscious level, we experience doubt. The doubt turns into an emotion called fear, and that fear is expressed through the body as anxiety. See, that person is getting emotionally involved to move ahead. Do you know what happens? They hit that terror barrier and they bounce off it and right back into bondage. And they're so relieved to get back there. They're back where they're comfortable. They've canceled the sale. They've decided not to move. They're going to stay in the job that they don't like. At least they're comfortable. Now, that's not a very good way to live. And you know something? That's something everybody experiences if they're going to grow. You're going to hit that terror barrier. See, the terror barrier is going beyond where you're at, going to a new level. I'm going to tell you something. When I set a goal, if it doesn't scare and excite me at the same time, I know I'm going in the wrong direction. Now, I also understand that my paradigm is going to try and get me to bounce back to where I was. It doesn't want me to move ahead. I don't want to live there. I lived there for the first 26 years of my life. And for the last 50, I've had a phenomenal life. And it just keeps getting better. And I want you to do the same thing. Understand what I've just said. I'm going to back this up. They got emotionally involved in the Y idea. That moved their body into a different vibration. On a conscious level, they're experiencing some crazy stuff. They start to doubt their ability, they'll never be able to pay for it. They experience fear. The fear expresses itself as anxiety. And bang, you bounce off that terror barrier and you're right back. Oh, I might not be earning much here, but I know what it is. I would love to move there, but I'm comfortable here. I think I'll just stay here. These people are acting like they have a contract to live forever. And they don't. Do you know what to do? Say, I'm going to get rid of all that. I understand it's there, but I don't want any part of it. And I'm going to go crashing right through that terror barrier. Now, does that get rid of the X energy? No. The X energy is still there, you see. But at least you're over into freedom. You made the move. You did it. And if you continue to feed the right information into your mind, keep feeding that why idea, keep getting emotionally involved in the why idea, you're there, you're on the road. Keep doing that. You're going to find that the paradigm is going to change and it'll just all go away. And you know where you're living? In freedom. You're living where you want to live. Buyer's remorse is when you cancel the sale. Buyer's remorse is when you stop just before you buy what you really want, before you go for the thing that's going to change your life and you know it. It's not moving to the other city. It's not starting the business of your dreams. It's not stepping out and betting on yourself. That's a terror barrier that's causing that. And if you don't learn to go through the terror barrier, I'm going to tell you something. You're going to stay right where you are for the rest of your days. That's not a good place to be. What did Joseph Campbell say? So true. The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek.
Here's the hard truth about getting great. It takes time and dedication. It takes a willingness to accept that you're not yet good enough. It takes the ability to stare at the places that you know that you're weak, to really look at those things and not let it affect your sense of self-esteem and not let it affect your sense of self-worth so that you can still get the momentum going. But you have to understand that in the beginning, we're all terrible. And as Henri Cartier-Bresson said, your first 10,000 photographs are your worst. And so the thing that really makes great art are the people that continue to push and the people that continue to work and face how inadequate they are and really understand that at the end of the day, greatness is a craft. Greatness is a process. Greatness is a habit. Greatness is the little things that you do every day, over time, going out every day, unafraid of whether or not this is one of the 10,000 terrible things that you're going to do. It's being unafraid to make those mistakes. It's being unafraid that you're not yet great. And as Marianne Radmacher said, courage doesn't always roar. Sometimes courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. And that's it. If you want to be great, that's what you have to do. You've got to get up again tomorrow. You've got to be willing to face another day. You've got to be willing to accept that you've got to get through the bad ideas before you can get to the good. You've got to understand that you have to start as an apprentice. You have to start as a person going and getting tea, and you have to accept that that's the job that you should be playing, that you should be working for somebody else. You should be looking up to somebody else and seeing what they can teach you, because what you know is that you're there to learn. What you know is that you're there to get through the 10,000 bad photographs that you need to get through to ultimately achieve greatness. And if you make the catastrophic error that so many make, to try to tell the world that you're extraordinary today, to try to get the world to follow you and look up to you and think that you're something today. Because the people that really win are the ones that invest today, the ones that listen today, the ones that spend every ounce of their energy amassing mastery, getting better every day, working their asses off to improve their skill set, to relentlessly look at the things that they're not doing well, to understand that they have to break themselves down and get rid of all of their ego before they can really find greatness. Those are the people that we remember. So if you want to be remembered, if you want to achieve real greatness, you just need to have the courage to show up every day and take another swing, take another photo, try another task, do something that scares you, and do those little things over and over and over until you win.
Just give yourself permission to want the things that you want. And unless you believe that you're worthy, unless that you practice love, you're never going to think that you deserve the things that you want.
Right. So tell the story.
Okay. So I'm probably going to sob
it's long.
hysterically. I'll shorten it. I'll shorten it. So the bottom line is that so in 1990, I was a senior in college at Dartmouth, and my parents came to visit from Western Michigan, and we went to this place called Simon Pierce, which is a famous glass blowing mill. And as we walked into the restaurant, I had an experience that you may be able to relate to, and that is I walked in and I immediately saw this painting hanging on the wall, and it was about the size of a door, only horizontal, and it was a Vermont landscape. And I was drawn into it immediately. Like I was no longer in that restaurant. I was standing in that field. I could feel that breeze. I'd never, ever had an experience like that with a painting. Have you ever had an experience like that with art?
No, I mean, not like that. Not like that. I mean, my sense was that this is very atypical for you.
Very. So I kind of lost it. The restaurant was quiet, and then I leaned back. I'm suddenly kind of back in the moment. I'm like, I'm going to own this painting someday. That was what was right there. And I looked at the price and it said like $3,000. I'm like, not today. And I went back and I sat down, and that was it. But the painting never left my mind. You see, there's something called the Zeigarnik effect. I always say it wrong, but it's like there's a checklist in your brain that when you have a moment where you're like, this is important, your brain puts it on a checklist.
Yeah, there's like a notch.
Yes, a notch happens. And now your brain, as part of the filter in the brain, is always going to be kind of scanning the subconscious to let anything into your mind related to that incident. It can be positive, by the way, like with the painting, or this is how trauma happens too. Like you have this high intensity emotional experience that notches something in your brain, and now your brain kicks in to remember. So bottom line is, I always thought about that painting. Years go by. Whenever somebody would say Vermont, I'd think of the painting. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Never wanted a painting before. Was not an art student. It's going to law school.
It's not like you're out collecting art.
No.
Yes.
Yeah. And so I, fast forward the story 10 years, and my Chris and I are engaged, and we're going to go up to Vermont to see the leaves. And immediately I'm like, we got to go to Simon Pierce. I got to show you the painting. So we pull up to the mill and we walk in, and right in front there is, boom, a painting by the same artist, Gail Shepard. And I'm like, oh my God, it's here. And we race all around the place, and it's gone. And the funny thing was, and this is the way your brain works, Chris was more disappointed than I was. I literally turned to him and said, it's okay, dude. Like, it'd be weird if it were still here after 10 years. I'm going to track this thing down. I actually said to him, you know what's going to happen, Chris? I'm going to be able to buy this like 40 years from now. It's going to be hanging in the corporate lobby of some building, and I'm going to have to track down the owner and pay like quadruple the money they pay. But I'm going to own this damn thing.
Mission now,
I have a mission, yes. So a couple years pass, and it's my birthday. I think I was turning 30, and Chris gets a couple people to give money. And he said I could buy anything I wanted with it. So I had what, $500? Now, I'm pregnant at the time with our first kid. I should have bought a crib or stools, but for whatever reason, the Zeigarnik effect takes over, and I'm like, the painting. So I call the mill, and I get this guy on the phone. I'm like, I want to buy a Gail Shepard piece. And I said, could you send me Polaroids? And he's like, sure. And I tell him the budget, and he goes, I'll send you Polaroids of some of her smaller things. And
she's like blowing up in the meantime, right?
Yeah, she's a very, very successful Vermont landscape artist. And so I say to him, by the way, there's this one painting. And I describe the painting I had seen over 10 years ago. And he said, well, that was way before my time, but I bet Gail will know. And I'm like, Gail? You know Gail? He's like, of course I know Gail. She like lives in down the road. Here's her number. So for 2 days, I paced around the apartment with $500 in my pocket, driving Chris crazy. Because I felt like, what am I going to say to her? And I must be a weirdo. I've been stalking this lady. I've been thinking about her for 10 years. I can't afford a painting. Who am I to buy a painting? Like, what the hell? So finally, Chris is like, would you call her? I'm going to call her. You're driving me crazy. So I call her, and I start talking a mile a minute, and she was amazing. And then I said, by the way, there was this one painting. And I go and I explain this painting. There's a stand of poplar trees down the center and a big mountainscape behind it, and this beautiful blue Vermont sky and geese flying in formation overhead. And I could hear her thinking on the other end of the line. And she said, Mel, I've done so many large-scale paintings over the years. I'd hate to mistake the one you're talking about. But I'll tell you what. What if my husband and I meet you and Chris at the mill at Simon Pierce? And we'll walk all around and have lunch, and I'll tell you the stories behind every painting. And if you don't see what you like there, I'll take you back to my studio, which is a couple miles down the river. And you can look at everything I'm working on. And if you don't see anything you like there, then you can go through all my slides and see if you can find that painting that you saw 10 years ago. And I said, deal. So a month passes. We go up to the mill. I walk in. We meet each other. She's amazing. She's like twice our age, just an incredibly cool lady. She's walking around. As we're walking around looking at these paintings, Rich, I'm like 8 months pregnant. I'm realizing these are 10 times the amount of money that I have.
Mm-hmm.
I can't afford this. Like, I don't have this kind of money. And I'm getting like more and more into that imposter syndrome. What am I doing mode? Oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. I'm meeting somebody I idolize. I don't deserve to be here.
Right. Wasting her time because she thinks she's going to get a payday out of this.
Correct. We sit down and she goes, now that you're sitting down, I have something to tell you. She said, there's only been 2 times in my career as an artist that I've done 2 studies of the same piece. And your painting is one of them. It's one of a pair.
She knew all along.
She knew all along.
She was playing games with you about not knowing which painting.
Yeah. And she said, the sister piece to the one that you saw all those years ago is sitting in my studio right now, where it's been for the past 11 years. I start sobbing. Everybody's like totally emotional. Her husband's like, you should have seen her when she was on the phone with you. It was like she saw a ghost. So we get in the car and we drive to the mill. And when we walk in, there in the center of this massive kind of barn studio space is an easel with a painting taped up with painter's tape on it. And it was the sister to my painting. There were slight differences, not as much movement in the grass, but it was one of the most extraordinary experiences of my life. It was as if time suspended and I was standing before that painting in 1990 saying it would be mine. And there I was 11 years later standing in front of it. And then I realized, oh my God, I can't afford this. And Chris walks over and he's like, what's wrong? And I'm like, just promise me someday, like promise me that I don't need a jewelry. I don't need a car. Like, just promise me you will buy me this thing. And he kind of leans over and goes, hey, Gail, how much for the big one? And she said, Mel can have it for $500 because clearly when I was making it 11 years ago, I was making it for her. Yeah. And so it hangs in my kitchen. It's on the back of the book.
This is the galley, though, right?
Yeah.
So wait, is it in the?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder every day that your mind is designed to help you get what you want. I never stopped believing that I could make it happen. And when you tell your mind what's important to you, there is extraordinary science that proves that your mind has a live and ever-changing filter, a live network that changes how it views the world, what it lets in, what it blocks out. And if you program your mind correctly, and if you're clear about what you want to create, your mind will help you get what you want.
You speak about the neurophysiology of forgiveness.
Sure. Think about frozen circuits. Frozen circuits are hardwired circuits. The more profound the insult to the person that is connected to a strong emotion, the more the brain freezes circuitry. The more we think about the experience, the more we fire and wire the circuits in our brain. Yes or no? Yes. And the more we remember the event, the more we produce the emotions that are associated with it, and we're conditioning the brain and body further into the past. Yes or no? Yes. And you keep doing it enough times, it's no longer conscious that you're holding a grudge. It's no longer conscious that you're stuck. It's now you're seeing everybody through the lens of that experience, and everybody's a betrayer. Everybody can't be trusted. Everybody is that same person. You're overlaying the memory of your experience into reality. You're not seeing it the way it is. You're seeing that person wearing the mask of the last person. That's the lens that we're perceiving reality. Are you with me still? And so then anything in your life that becomes remotely close to it based on your limited perception triggers the emotion in the network, and you're back in your past, and you're acting like you were when it happened. Are you with me still? And so then the person says, I'm not that person. And you say, oh, no, I know. I just had this event in my past, and I'm sorry. And then it's excusable, but then here it happens again. And there's nothing wrong with this. We all do it. It's just, how do we overcome it? So then you're sitting and doing the work, and you're moving energy up those centers. You're releasing the life force into your brain. You are blessing those centers and taking a scoop and moving it all the way up and releasing it all the way up into the field. You're opening the channel. You're unfolding as nobody, no one, no thing, no where, and no time, and the identity and the personality is gone. Energy's going to move. It's got to. It's going to follow the path. You're opening your heart. Once it gets to your heart, it's going to make its way all the way up. And when you feel love and compassion, when you feel true kindness and care, it's hard to hold a grudge. Are you with me still? Yes. So then from a quantum physics point of view, you have that person always in the back of your mind, right? You have the event and the memory rolling around back there because the very thing that you don't want to have happen, you're already preparing for emotionally. Are you with me still? Yeah. So then from a quantum perspective, you are actually, as a creator of reality, holding yourself hostage because of that person. And you are holding them hostage because of that experience. And you have an energetic bond that's connecting you to them. And you're sharing the same energy. And so then you're using each other to reaffirm whatever that energetic agreement is. Are you with me still? So then when you forgive someone, it's because there's been a strong change in your emotional state. Because the emotion is what's keeping you energetically bound to them or to more than one person. And so then once you start lowering the volume to that emotion and the body starts liberating energy, and you're calling your energy back to you, because the lower the volume of the emotion, the less you're going to pay attention to that person, there comes a moment where there's a snap, there's a release. The energy is broken. And once it's broken now, all of a sudden, you free yourself. And you free them. And this has happened to me in my life. That people show up 10 years later, completely changed and so humble and so asking for forgiveness just because they had transformed, and I let them go. So then forgiveness from a quantum perspective and a neurophysiological perspective is just taking your attention off them. That's all it is. And when you start getting happy with yourself and you start feeling those elevated emotions because you're striving for that, you wouldn't trade this for the grudge you were holding because this feels too good. Are you with me still? Now, once that heart opens up and you start having energy in the center and it's releasing 1,300 to 1,400 different chemicals that begin to restore and regenerate the body, the body start getting a lift of energy. Once it makes its here, now you're going to see that track sending in energy to the brain. The heart acts as an amplifier to boost the brain. Are you with me still? Yep. So then once the energy starts making its way into the brain, once the heart starts to open, we've measured this with our students. They have oxytocin levels rise. Once you start feeling oxytocin, when you feel more love, then you feel the grudge. So then you think, why would I want to give this up for that person? That's called forgiveness. You don't have to try to do it. It just is a side effect of your personal transformation. And oxytocin then, when it's released, rushes right into the amygdala, the survival center of the brain, and the research is outstanding. And the first thing it does is it fits in the same receptor sites as fear, and it lowers the volume to fear and anxiety. It shuts the lights out for aggression and anger and hostility, and it cools the circuits off for suffering and pain, and the only thing you can feel is a love for life. And that's when you're free. Now, the practice of forgiveness, matter to matter, you can do it, but it takes a long time and a lot of work. And then you forgive, and then you're like, I don't want to forgive him. Halfway forgive him. And just never really authentic forgiveness. Do you understand? And you know, there was a woman that came to our work, and she was raped by 4 men when she was a teenager, and it was abusive. And she had severe night terrors, severe anxiety and panic attacks. She had cyclic mood problems. She had been to every single doctor, every single healer, every single alternative practitioner. Nothing changed it. She came to our event in Tacoma, Washington. And she hit that point where she became everybody, everyone, everything, everywhere, every time, every place. She became the oneness. And that frequency had a message for her, and it said, and she was in incredible bliss when this happened. I sent 4 angels disguised as rapists for this moment. And that was the end of her terrors. That was the end of her night. She couldn't have a relationship. She could not live with anybody. She was isolated. One moment, the divine stepped in and gave her the signal. That was carrying a very specific message, and she got the download, not just the thought. She got the energy move right through her body, and she saw the whole thing. And that moment is what she was waiting for. That's what the soul was waiting for. Now she's healed, she's healthy, she's happy, and she's on with a new life. She's born again. My mother would love this. She's born again in the same life. Reborn in the same life. Didn't pass through a birth canal for it. She just was born again in the same life. She got a new lease in one instant. That energy was carrying a message, and it made its way all the way into the body, and the bliss and the joy and the gratitude and the love that she felt, and the message that was carried made total sense to her. She's free. One instant. To me, that's true forgiveness. That's the divine having its way with you.
You need to create an environment of excellence. Excellence. Most people's environments are not excellent. The people around you, the videos that you watch, the things that are on your wall, the voices that are in your head, you have these moments that are bold, that are courageous, that make you feel unstoppable and you can do anything, and then you fall back down because the environment is the thing that's keeping you small. It takes a giant effort to overcome your environment. You definitely can. It's definitely possible. Tons of people are doing it. But it takes that giant effort to say, I don't want to stay stuck here. Most people stay stuck. Most people make minimal improvements in their life year over year. And if you don't want to stay where you are right now, fast forward to 1 year from today, you don't want to stay stuck. You want to be in a different place. Could actually be physically moving, but a different place in terms of your finances, in terms of your purpose, in terms of how much you're giving and caring and sharing and the life that you want to build. You want to be somewhere totally different. Like today, this is not acceptable anymore. I accept that this is where I am right now, but where I end up is not going to be the same spot as where I am right now, right? If that's your commitment, the biggest shift that will help you get from where you are now to where you want to be is creating that environment of excellence. What's the fastest way to learn a language? What's the fastest way to learn Japanese? Well, it's to go to Japan. Sure, you can read some books and you can hire a tutor, and the more intense it becomes, the more you're actually living it, the faster you're going to pick it up. So if you want to develop the mindset of the high achiever, if you want to become that person, the people that you look up to, the whoever of the world, like I want to be the next whoever, perfect, that person. The more you hang around with them, the more it's going to rub off on you how they think. Because how they think, how they act, how they behave, how they see the world is very different than how you see it right now, and how the people around you definitely see the world right now. So how do you do it? How do you start to become it? Well, I look at what I'm doing. And this was one of my biggest challenges when I was getting started, and honestly still in. Like I think the biggest problem in the world is a lack of belief. I'm trying to solve the world's biggest problem. People don't believe in themselves enough. I don't, you don't, Oprah doesn't. People don't believe in themselves enough for the next level. So how do you start to believe in yourself more? The thing that helped me the most was to have these successful people around me constantly. And so I want to share a few tactics that I think can really help you, that has really helped me as being the shy, introverted kid who never wanted to be in front of a camera and was making $300 a month and quit on my business partner and thought life was over, right? To now here. And it's taken me 20 years to get here. So hopefully we can shorten that path for you if you actually follow some of the advice in this video. So step number one, how do we create that environment of excellence? What you feed into your brain really, really, really matters. So figure out how you love to learn. For me, it's videos. I like to see things. I need to be visual. If that's you, then you need to have a way to have those videos coming into your life every day. It could be part of your morning routine. That's why I make this channel. Part of your morning routine. Subscribe to the channel every morning, every weekday. We got a new video out there for you to give you the shot of Espresso to help you. But if it's not my channel, it's some other channel, one of my other channels. Subscribe to the channels that make you feel bold, powerful, unstoppable, give you hope, give you belief in yourself. And then watch that video every day, or listen to that podcast every day, or read that book every day. The trick is it can't be the same book or the one video, because that one video on repeat is going to lose its effectiveness, right? You know it. You watch a video, it gets you all fired up, and then you watch it again the next day, and it's not as like, oh, what happened? I don't feel as good. And you watch it the next day, and the feeling's gone. So you can't just read the same book over and over, watch the same video over and over and over again. The key is to find a consistent source. So if you love this channel or you love this video, I'm making other videos just like this that you can subscribe to. If you like an author, go find their other books, or go find the people that inspire them so that you can read something every day. If you like a podcast, go find other podcasts like them so you have something every day. So you are manipulating what comes in your head with intention now. With intention. So you're not just scrolling through things like, I am going to watch one of these videos every day to slowly shift myself forward. Because it'll happen. If you love Elon Musk and you watch Elon Musk every day, what will happen is slowly, day by day, you will start to think like Elon Musk. It will happen. He will pull you forward. You will start to see the big difference in how he thinks versus how the people around you think versus how you think right now. And he will give you more courage and more boldness and more a sense of hope and purpose that you can do it too. You'll start to think more like him. So be careful who you pick, and maybe you don't like Elon Musk, maybe you like Kanye West or Oprah Winfrey or whoever, but the more you're around that person, the more you will start to think like them. So you want to put that as part of your daily routine, that every day, because yesterday was a different day. You might have been fired up, bold, motivated, great, but today's a new day. The motivation you had yesterday is nowhere near what it is right now when you wake up, right? You can have the best day of all time, you wake up the next day and it's gone. So how do you keep the consistency? The routine. Tell yourself, I'm going to watch a video even when I don't want to, even when I feel low energy, even when, right, all the excuses we come up with, I'm going to watch a video to get myself into the state I need to get into, because I want to follow my dreams. I don't want to be stuck here anymore. Tied to that is then subscribe to the channels that make you feel that way. So do an audit of all of the channels you follow on YouTube, of all the people you follow on Instagram, anywhere you're spending time on social. Do an audit of who makes you actually feel more bold and who makes you just waste time. or who makes you feel bad about yourself. There's some people you probably follow who, when you look at their stuff, it actually makes you feel worse about yourself. Unfollow those people immediately, right? They don't care about you, so why are you caring about them? And then the people who make you feel better, follow them, subscribe to them, so that when you happen to be on the platform, when you happen to be going through YouTube or Instagram, you see them and it makes you remember why you're doing what you do. So the first part of it is a habit. We are designing our routines around this, that I'm going to watch a video every day with my heroes so that they pull me forward, right? We're putting it into our calendar. The second part of it is I'm also going to subscribe to channels and people that inspire me, so that when I happen to be on the platforms, I'm feeding myself with things that inspire me and lift me up instead of waste my time or put me down. Okay, so that habit, that environment really, really matters. The second part of environment, to create our environment of excellence, right, is the physical environment. So this office inspires me. This office, this was all with intent. The people on the wall behind me, we got Steve Jobs, A.P. Giannini, my parents, Howard Schultz, Kanye West, the trophies, the YouTube stuff, the getting my hands wrong here. This side, the art, the art that people drew, my book, my neck brace from when I broke my neck, like even the colors on the wall, all of this, it inspires me. This inspires me. When I walk into this office, I want to believe more in myself. I see Steve Jobs staring me down. I see my parents staring me down. It's like a reminder of what I want to do, because I wake up and I don't have the most energy. I don't feel super bold and like, let's go take on the day, right? I don't have that as soon as I wake up. But we manufacture it through the habits and routines, but also the actual physical environment. And the beauty about this is you only have to set it up once. I set this up once and then I walk in, and every day I'm being hit with these messages and reminders of the person that I want to be. So whether that's a mood board you put up for yourself, whether it's people that inspire you, you have to look at the thing, and it inspires you to want to push a little harder. It inspires you to want to believe in yourself and more. It inspires you to want to go off and take some kind of action today. The physical environment matters a lot, and you can control that. So think about your office, think about your bedroom, think about your car, think about where you're spending significant time, and how much of that has actually been done with intent. How much of your physical environment has been created with intent to make you believe in yourself more? It matters a lot. And then the third thing, really quick, is your outfit, the clothes that you wear, how you show up for yourself. When I put this on, I remind myself that I'm a superhero going to work. That might sound really dumb or cheesy, but you know what? It works for me. I am a superhero going to work. I'm not fighting crime. I'm fighting lack of belief. I want people to believe in themselves more, and I'm going to work. When I see, there was a Green Arrow show I used to watch, and when they were in their base, in their lair, they always put their outfits on a mannequin, right? So when they're off fighting crime, they're in their uniforms, but then when they come back to their base, they're in normal clothes, but they put their outfits on a mannequin. So I went and got myself a mannequin. It's just, you can't see it, but it's just sitting here off camera. I got a mannequin, and it's got my hoodie on it as a reminder that I'm a superhero going to work every day. And again, that might sound really cheesy or dumb or corny, but I like it. It works for me. And putting this on every day, instead of just showing up in my pajamas, I work from home. We've got 30-something people on the team. I don't see my team physically that often. Most people work from home. I could just show up every day in my pajamas. But putting this on reminds me that I'm a superhero with a mission. Whether you want to adopt that or not is up to you, but how you present yourself for yourself, not just for the camera. I'm not putting this on just for the camera. I'm putting this on because this is what I put on. This is for me. I could make a video in my pajamas, that's fine, but I'm making this for me. I wear this for me. What do you need to do for you? Not just because there's some expectations. When your expectations of yourself become higher than what you think other people's expectations are for you, that's when the game starts to change. When I'm wearing something just because of how I think you guys will perceive me, or some speech I'm doing or some meeting, I'm only living up to that person's standards or what I think their standards are. And said, no, I'm doing this for me. I wear this for me. I show up like this, even if I'm not making any kind of content. I only make content once a week, usually for YouTube. What am I doing the other days of the week? I'm still wearing this because I'm a superhero going to work, and it's my reminder. This is how you start to create an environment of excellence, guys. Your environment is keeping you where you are. Your environment is keeping you stuck. And if you don't want to be stuck anymore, if you want to change your circumstances, if you don't want to be in the same spot you are right now 1 year from today, you have to create an environment of excellence. How do we do that? Number one, we start feeding our mind with excellence from the videos and podcasts and books from people who inspire us. Number two, we change our physical environment so that you walk into a room, you walk into your car, you walk into your bedroom or office or wherever you're spending time, and it pushes you forward to step into the person that you want to be. And then number three, the outfits, what you wear, how you present yourself, having a higher standard for yourself than what other people expect, that you are a superhero going to work every day because you are on a mission. You've got a great heart. You've got tons of ideas. I see it over and over and over and over and over again. So much potential. And just stuck. Just stuck. Because there's a lack of momentum that stems from having a really poor environment. If you can just change with intention that I am going to create an environment of excellence for myself that inspires me and pushes me forward to step into the person I want to believe that I can be. If you can do that every day, your entire life will change.
Everything we as human beings have created on this planet was essentially first created in our minds. All that you see, which is human work on this planet, first found expression in the mind, then it got manifested in the outside world. The wonderful things that we have done on this planet and the horrible things that we have done on this planet, both have come from the human mind. So if we are concerned as to what we create in this world, it's extremely important that first of all we learn to create the right things in our mind. How we keep our minds. If we do not have the power to keep our minds the way we want it, what we create in the world is also going to be very accidental and haphazard. So learning to create our minds the way we want is the basis of creating the world the way we want. There is a wonderful story in the yogic lore. On a certain day, a man took a walk. He went for a long walk. Accidentally, unawares, he walked into paradise. Fortunate, isn't he? He just took a walk and he landed up in paradise. After this long walk, he felt little tired. So he thought, oh, I'm tired, I wish I could rest somewhere. He looked around, there was a nice tree, underneath which there was very cushiony grass. So it was inviting. He went and put his head down there and slept. After a few hours, he woke up, well rested, and he thought, oh, I'm well rested, but I'm feeling hungry. I wish I had something to eat. And he thought about all the nice things that he ever wanted to eat in his life. And instantly, all those things appeared in front of him. You need to understand, there the service is like that. Hungry people don't ask questions. Food came and he ate. Stomach became full. Then he thought, oh, my stomach is full, I wish I had something to drink. All the nice things that he ever wanted to drink, he thought about it and all of them just appeared in front of him. Drinking people also don't ask questions, so he drank. Now with a little bit of alcohol in him, you know Charles Darwin told you, all of you are monkeys, your tail fell away. Not me, Charles Darwin told you that you were all monkeys and your tail fell away and then you became human. Yes, definitely the tail fell away. But the monkey, in yoga, we always refer to an unestablished mind as markata, which means a monkey. Why we are referring to the mind as a monkey is, what are the qualities of a monkey? One thing about a monkey is, it's unnecessary movement. And another thing about the monkey is, if I say you're monkeying somebody, what does it mean? Imitation. Monkey and imitation have become synonymous. So these two essential qualities of a monkey are very much the qualities of an unestablished mind. Unnecessary movement, you don't have to learn it from the monkey, you can teach it to the monkey. And imitation is full-time job of the mind. So when these two qualities are on, a mind is referred to as a monkey. So this monkey became active within him. He just looked around, thought, what the hell is happening here? I asked for food, food came. I asked for drink, drink came. There must be ghosts around here. And ghosts came. Oh, the ghosts have come, they're going to surround me and torture me, he thought. Immediately the ghosts surrounded him and started torturing him. Then he started screaming in pain and said, oh, they're going to kill me. And he died. Just now he said he's a fortunate being. The problem is he was sitting under a kalpa vriksha or a wishing tree. He asked for food, food came. He asked for drink, drink came. He asked for ghosts, ghosts came. He asked for torture, torture came. He asked for death, death happened. Now don't go looking for these kalpa vrikshas in the forest. You can barely find a tree these days. A well-established mind, a mind which is in a state of samyukti, is referred to as a kalpa vriksha. If you organize your mind to a certain level of organization, it in turn organizes the whole system. Your body, your emotion, your energies, everything gets organized in that direction. Once all these four dimensions of you, your physical body, your mind, your emotion and the fundamental life energies are organized in one direction, once you are like this, anything that you wish happens without even lifting a little finger actually. It would help to assist it with activity, but even without doing any activity, you can still manifest what you want if you organize these four dimensions in one direction and keep it unwavering in that direction for a certain period of time. Right now the problem with your mind is, every moment it is changing its direction. It is like you want to travel somewhere and every 2 steps if you keep changing your direction, the question of you reaching the destination is very remote unless it happens by chance. So, organizing our minds and in turn organizing the whole system and these four basic dimensions of who you are right now in one direction, if you do this, you are a kalpavruksha yourself. Anything that you wish will happen. But right now, if you look at your lives, everything that you have wished for till now, if it happens, you have finished. Everything and everybody that you have desired for, if all of that lands up in your house today, could you live with that? Once we're empowered like this, it's very important that our physical action, emotional action, mental action and energy actions are controlled and properly directed. If it is not so, we become destructive, self-destructive. Right now, that is our problem. The technology, which is supposed to make our life beautiful and easy, has become the source of all the problem that we are destroying the very basis of our life, which is the planet. So what should have been a boon, we are making a curse out of it. What has brought incredible levels of comfort and convenience to us in the last 100 years or so has also become a threat to our life simply because we are not conscious action, we are in a compulsive state of action. So organizing our minds fundamentally means moving from a compulsive state of activity to a conscious state of activity. You might have heard of people for whom they asked for something and beyond all expectations it came true for them. Generally this happens to people who are in faith. Now, let's say you want to build a house. If you start thinking, Oh, I want to build a house. To build a house, I need 50 lakhs, but I have only 50 rupees in my pocket. Not possible, not possible, not possible. The moment you say not possible, you are also saying, I don't want it. So on one level, you're creating a desire that you want something. On another level, you're saying, I don't want it. So in this conflict, it may not happen. Someone who has some faith in a god or in a temple or whatever, who is simple-minded. Faith works only for those people who are simple-minded. Thinking people who are too much thinking, for them it never works. A childlike person who has a simple faith in his god or his temple or whatever, he goes to the temple and says, Shiva, I want a house. I don't know how, you must make it for me. Now in his mind there are no negative thoughts. Will it happen? Will it not happen? Is it possible? Is it not possible? These things are completely removed by this simple act of faith. Now he believes Shiva will do it for him and it will happen. So is Shiva going to come and build your house? No, I want you to understand, God will not lift his little finger for you. What you refer to as God is the source of creation. As a creator, he has done a phenomenal job, there's no question about it. Could you think of a better creation than this? Is it in anybody's imagination to think anything better than what is there right now? So as a creator, he has done his job wonderfully well. But if you want life to happen the way you want it, because right now, the very crux of your happiness and your well-being is this. If at all if you're unhappy, the only and only reason why you're unhappy is life is not happening the way you think it should happen. That's all it is. So if life is not happening the way you think it should happen, you're unhappy. If life happens the way you think it should happen, you are happy. It's as simple as that. So if life has to happen the way you think it should happen, first of all, how you think, with how much focus you think, how much stability is there in your thought, and how much reverberance is there in the thought process will determine whether your thought will become a reality or is it just an empty thought. Or how you do not create any impediments for your thought by creating negative thought process. This possible is something possible or not possible, is destroying humanity. What is possible and not possible is not your business, it's nature's business. Your business is just to strive for what you want.
Because you made it this far in a video, I want to celebrate you. Most people start and don't finish. Most people never actually follow through. Most people say they want something, but they don't ever do the work to actually get it. But you are different. You are special. Believe Nation, you made it here all the way to the end, and I love you. So as a special celebration, if you put a hashtag Believe down in the comments below on this video, I will showcase you and celebrate you somewhere on the screen in a future video because you are awesome. For 10 more amazing reels from Rhonda Byrne, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
When you discover who you are, then everything else is going to fall into place. But there's going to be I feel for sure that this was my life purpose, that discovering the secret and doing everything that I'm doing, I know for sure this is what I was meant to do.